Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Ask Mish. First of all, you guys seem to really love having Nick on the podcast last week. So if you haven't checked out last week's episode, make sure you check it out. It was a really great episode. I enjoyed doing it with him. You guys seem to enjoy his male comment. Maybe he'll be like the official male commentary of the show when we need a boy's point of view. So maybe we'll try to have him on a little bit more. Make sure you guys are also following us on Instagram at our new Instagram account. It's ask_mish, MISH. We're going to be sort of phasing all the fun over to that Instagram account. So that's where you guys are going to be able to DM me anytime, ask me your questions. I'm always going to pick one once a week, obviously, for the podcast, but then we'll start doing them real time over there on the stories. So that's where you're going to be able to see the clips. We're going to be doing polls. We're going to make it like a big party on there. Like this podcast outgrew my little social media account. We had to give her own. So make sure you guys are following us over there at ask_mish. You guys will also be able to see it in the show notes. So if you're listening to this in real time, happy Halloween. Halloween is set. Okay, so as you guys know, in addition to being podcast host of Ask Mish, I also am the CEO and founder of a company called Mish. And we have been disrupting the dieting industry for the past 13 years, getting people in really good eating habits, like long-term, by like truly getting to the root of the problem and designing, eating philosophies that people can actually stick to for the rest of their life rather than trying to fit them into cookie cutter diet programs. And as a nutritionist by trade, Halloween is such a weird concept because, we work so hard. Just the whole message, to America is like, let's be healthier. Like, let's do this. And then all of a sudden we're working so hard to like do that and be healthy. And then all of a sudden America just like throws up candy on everybody everywhere for a whole day. And then it just like lingers. And for our clients, obviously we give them a ton of strategies for that. And we'll be posting a bunch of strategies for that on our Nutritionish pages, so make sure you're following us on there too. But it's just such a weird concept, Halloween, if you really think about it. Like, why do we just throw candy at everybody? It's like real life Candy Crush. So in my mind, at least, Halloween sort of marks the official start of the holiday season. So in addition to the food being a challenge, there's also a ton of stress that comes up around this time of year, be it like financial pressure, food pressure, family pressure. Like there's so much pressure that it's just like, if you're somebody that's a stress person by nature, it's just going to like bring it out in you tenfold. And this was one of the questions that I chose this week because I think it's something that everyone can kind of relate to. But I see so many people that come in and they just really, truly struggle with stress and anxiety, and they just don't know how to manage it well. And then this time of year, it just gets exacerbated. So that was the question that I chose. So if you're somebody that struggles with stress, if you're someone who struggles with anxiety, if you're someone who just struggles with like self-talk, this is going to be a game-changing episode for you. So that being said, let's dive into this week's episode. Dear Mish, I really hope you picked this question because I'm really struggling. I need to know how to better deal with stress. I am constantly feeling stressed out. I constantly feel like nothing I'm doing is ever good enough. It could just be how you are on social media, but you never seem stressed. I am stressed. Stress is normal. It's just about how you deal with it. So no, I am stressed. I don't post about it. Maybe I should. But the strategies I'm going to give you are going to help you manage it. So you'll be okay. With the holidays coming up, I already feel like I'm spiraling. I know that I'm going to gain weight like I do every year. Money is tight. I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford presents for everyone. And then I'm going to have to deal with my family on top of it. And they're constantly judging me, which also stresses me out. I literally just want to hide. I don't know what to do. I feel like I turn to vices like eating or doom scrolling, but then I get upset with myself and stressed out about that too. I feel like I'm a prisoner of my own mind. Please help. All right. So first thing, take a deep breath. It's all good. Stress is normal. It's just your response to it that's messed up. And here's the thing, it's not your fault. It would be wonderful if they actually taught us this shit in school. Like I would petition for less teaching about things like the Pythagorean theorem, which I don't even know where that is or where I just pulled that out from, and more about things like how to actually deal with stress, because these are things that actually are useful and would help us live healthier lives if we were actually taught what it is and how to manage it and where it comes from and all that kind of stuff. So the problem sometimes, not in every case, but the problem sometimes with people who deal with something like chronic stress is that there's sometimes this underlying belief is like, well, this is just how I am. This is just who I am. I can't change it. There's nothing I can do about it. And there's a really good book that our male commentator, Nick, actually recommended to me called, I think it's called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I didn't actually read the book. I had ChatGPT'd a summary of it, but I'm going to read it because it was very interesting. But from what I got from the ChatGPT summary, which is relevant to this, is there's two types of people in the world with the same brains, just two different types of people, how they use them. One type of person is called a like fixed mindset person, and they just believe, well, this is just who I am, I can't really make any changes. And then there's the other type of person with the same kind of brain that's called a growth mindset person, but that the only difference is they believe that, okay, like this is how I am now, but like I have the ability to change that. And the only difference between the two types of people is one group believes that they can change and the other group does not believe that they can change. But in reality, they have the same brains, they can all change. So that's the where I kind of want to like start this conversation is you can make changes. There's a whole science behind it. I'm going to give you like the Spark Note version of the science of it, but you need to believe that you can make changes first before you actually start to. So if you're like, okay, cool, I believe I could change, but like, why am I like this? And why are some people not like this? There's a bunch of different reasons for that, like a couple of theories. One is a lot of it probably has to do with like how you were raised. So if you were like raised and growing up you were constantly like criticized as a child, like that becomes like your own internal voice, where you're like beating yourself up all the time, you never feel good enough. So if you had parents or like an authority figure in your life, like you might be more prone to that. There's also something called the negativity bias, which is where people are much more likely to identify like threats or negative things and put a lot more emphasis on negative things than positive things. So like just for example, I'm sure you maybe don't remember all the A's in school that you got if you were a good student, but you might remember like the one C or D or F that you got. Or you might not remember like all the compliments your boss gave you, but you're going to remember the one time that you got yelled at or the one time that you got in trouble. So that's the negativity bias. So it's the brain's like natural sort of tendency to seek out like threats, which was super valuable like back in the day when we were like hunter gatherers. Now it's just sort of annoying. But again, if you know that this is just the tendency, you can change it because hopefully you're like, okay, I'm going to be the growth mindset person, not the fixed mindset person. Lastly, another one is if you tend to be like a perfectionist, like if you're always striving for perfection, which of course you're never going to achieve, you're just setting yourself up to feel like a failure. One of the things we talk about, or I think Ed Milet said this, I think Ed Milet said this, is, confidence comes from the act of keeping promises to yourself. So, if you're somebody who makes all these big grandiose promises because you're being a perfectionist, like, oh my God, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in 20 days, or I'm going to like never eat carbs again, or I'm going to go to the gym every single day, when you never really like can't hit that goal, it just sort of like shatters your confidence around this stuff, which can create like stress as well. You're like, oh my God, I never do this. I never follow through. I never blah, blah, blah. So like, those are the reasons why. And I think that's important. It's important. So I think first thing, it's important to understand why you maybe are the way that you are. And second thing is to understand that you can actually like change it. It is possible. And now hopefully with those two understandings, we can get into how to start to like make those changes so that like the stress and the noise in your brain like quiets, because oh my gosh, it sounds like it's chaotic up there. So this is how your brain works, right? And I'm going to like simplify. I'm going to cut out a couple steps here. I'm just going to like talk about the ones that I think are the most important. Your thoughts, whatever you think, create feelings. Whatever you're feeling, that creates actions. And however you act over time, that just creates who you are. So if we assume for a second that that's true, that means that we can change your actions, we can change your identity, we can change how you feel, we can change a lot by starting to be conscious of and starting to change your thoughts. Now that should start to give you a little bit of a sense of control, because what's making you spiral out of control, what's making you act the way you act, what's making you feel the way you feel are your thoughts. We have control over those. We just have to start to become aware of them, right? So let's kind of give a quick example of what this might look like in real life. Let's say I have two kids here, and one kid, I'm like, oh my God, John, we're going to say John. Johnny's a kid. Johnny, you're so good at math. You're so good at math, Johnny. I'm going to put that thought in Johnny's head. Johnny's going to be like, oh, wow. Mom or whoever said I'm really good at math. I must be really good at math. That's going to make him feel good. Now, if Johnny feels good about math, when it comes to actions around doing math, he's going to be more inclined to do it. He's going to be more open to learning. He's going to be like, okay, I don't quite understand this concept, but I'm good at math. So I'm going to like, I know I'm going to figure this out because this is something that I'm really good at. And then Johnny's actions over time create like this personality trait where he is good at math. Okay. Now let's say I have somebody else, let's call them Stacy. And Stacy, it was told, hey, Stacy, you're just really not great at math. You're not good at math, Stacy. So Stacy's not good at math. She's told she's not good at math. So then that's what she's told. That's the thought that she gets put in her head. So now, okay, so Stacy, you're not so great at math. So now that kind of makes Stacy feel not so great about math. It kind of makes her feel a little insecure about it. It makes her want to avoid it. It makes it like her least favorite class. That's how she feels around it. So when it comes time to like studying, she doesn't like put in a ton of effort because she's like, I'm bad at math. I'm not going to get it anyway. When it comes to homework, she's like, I'll just try, but like, I'm not really like trying to figure anything. Like I'm not good at it anyway. And then Stacy just becomes somebody who's bad at math. So Now, look, it's possible that Stacy might struggle with math a little bit more. Johnny might be good at like these. It's possible that there can be some facts based in this. But if we put these thoughts in people's heads and we tell them this over and over again, you see how it could totally change the trajectory of what they're good and what they're not good at. And I'm not saying, if we're talking about kids, I'm not saying you have to like tell them that they're good at shit that they're not good at, obviously. But that was just an example of like, two different people told two different things. Now they have two different trajectories. Let's apply this concept to something else. Let's apply it to nutrition, right? So you're telling yourself, oh my God, I was so bad today. I ate pizza. I ate so bad today. So you're like, oh my God, I screwed up. I ate pizza. That's the thought that's coming through your head. And all of this happens at a subconscious level usually. So you're like, oh my God, I ate that pizza. You're beating yourself up because you ate that pizza. You're like, I was so bad. I can't believe I did that. I screwed up. That's what you're saying to yourself. That's going to create feelings of, well, you screwed up. You shouldn't have done that. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, that's going to create like negative feelings. Then my actions are going to reflect that too. So what can I do? I might be like, well, I already started eating the pizza. I'm already eating badly. So might as well just like eat everything. Like how many times have people done that with food where you're like, well, already screwed up. Might as well like go into effort mode and like go crazy with it. So that could be the action, or the action could be, well, like already screwed up. Like I'm just gonna quit. Like why bother eating healthy anymore? Like, and then they stop doing it, and then they just start to identify as somebody who struggles with food. They identify as somebody that has no willpower. They identify because that thought that they put in their head, or that thought that was in their head, created a feeling around it. That feeling dictated the action, and then the action led to who they felt that they were. Versus, let's say I have somebody that I'm working with, and I poke a hole in that theory. They're like, oh my God, pizza screwed up my week. And I'm like, pizza didn't screw up your week. I'm like, that was one crazy meal out of 21. That's not the majority. So they're like, oh yeah, you're right. And I'm like, look, you're eating better than you're normally eating. So like how is having pizza one time messing up your week? And they're like, oh, huh, okay, cool. So then they eat the pizza the next time. Now they're not looking at it as a screw up potentially, right? Now they're like, okay, yeah, no, like I didn't screw up. Like that thought wasn't true. So now they're going to keep eating healthier. They're not going to sabotage their whole week or whatever. And they're going to and now they're going to identify with somebody who is eating like healthier most of the time. Another random example is sometimes people say this all the time. Some people say that they're self-conscious to go to the gym because they're like, oh my God, everyone's staring at me at the gym. So they're going in, they're like, oh my God, everyone's staring at me. Everyone's going to be looking at me. They're going to know I don't know what I'm doing. They're going to think I'm so big. Like these are things that my clients have told me that they experience, and whether you have or haven't, you can identify with it. So they have this thought that, oh my God, if I go to the gym, I'm going to be criticized. Everyone's going to be looking at me. It's going to be so bad and this and that. So then they're going to feel bad about going to the gym, and then they're not going to want to go to the gym. And then they're just going to be somebody that's like, I don't go to the gym because I don't want people judging me. People judge me when I go to the gym. And like, you can hear how a lot of these things aren't true, but we don't ever take time to like audit these thoughts as adults. They just sort of like happen in a split second, and then they like run the show. Right? Now, let's say this person doesn't think that everyone's looking at her when she goes to the gym. She's like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. She's like, I'm going to go to the gym. She has a great workout. She's like, oh, I feel really good about myself for going to the gym. She doesn't have any negative thoughts around it, but she has a feeling, she feels good about it. So then the actions are going to be, okay, I felt good about going to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym more. I feel really good about that. And then she's just going to start being an active person. Your thoughts control your whole life. So the problem, though, like I said before, is we have a lot of those thoughts that are happening without our conscious permission. So many of our thoughts, I think it's something like 80 to 90% of our thoughts throughout the day are autopilot. Our brains have to automate a certain amount of stuff, because if it doesn't automate a certain amount of stuff, like we wouldn't be able to function. So certain things like have to be automated because we can only consciously focus on so many things at one time. So our brains automate a lot. Your brain automates something when you've said it over and over to yourself. So when there's repetition, and then it happens especially quickly when there's emotion behind it. Ask yourself if the things that you're saying to yourself are stressing you out. Are they true? Is it real, or is it not even real? And then if it's not real, okay, well, what is real? And then if it's something where it is real, okay, well, how can I have a mindset shift over it? So for example, you're like, the holidays are coming. I know I'm going to gain weight. Well, is that true or untrue? We don't know. Maybe historically speaking, you've gained weight every holiday, but it doesn't mean that this year you're definitely going to. So you could say, you know what? Usually I gain weight every holiday. Why do I gain weight every holiday? It's probably because the second that October rolls around, I feel like once the Halloween candy comes out, I'm like, well, there's no point in eating healthy now because the Halloween candy's out and then it's Thanksgiving and then it's Christmas. So I'm kind of eating unhealthy unnecessarily around like the one-off events, where if I just sort of like maybe enjoyed myself the one-off events, but then I ate healthy around it, maybe I wouldn't gain all that weight. So like, let me just try that strategy this year. Or let me call Nutrish Mish and let me work with them this year and they'll make sure that I don't gain weight this year, whatever it is, you know? So it's just about kind of being like, all right, like what actually is, kind of have a mindset shift around this. Now, let's say it's a situation where, all right, I can't afford presents for people this year, or there's just too much to do, or my family is going to judge me. Okay, so maybe your family says stuff. Can we change how you react to it? Like, just because they say it, does that make it true? Can you change how you, can we say like, okay, you know, maybe my mom and dad judge me because they're really like projecting their own stuff on like onto me and has nothing to do with me and I'm happy with who I am, so I don't really care what they think. Can we have like a mindset shift around that? If it's something where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't afford presents, like maybe that's true, maybe you can't, but then maybe switch it to something that's like more just like positive, less stressful. But you know what? I'm really grateful that I have such great family and friends around me. I'm going to do the best I can. Maybe I'll do some DIY stuff. Maybe I'll like, you know, bake people cake or something. I don't know. I'll just show them that I appreciate them in other ways rather than buying them something. And that, you know, that's how I'm going to. So just sort of like switching it from doom and gloom to sort of like gratitude. That's the best way to kind of put it. Like, how can I have a mindset shift so that this feels more positive? Because another thing about the brain is the brain always wants to move away from things that make it feel bad, and it wants to move towards things that make it feel good. So if you're constantly saying things and doing things that make your brain feel bad, it's going to want to like shut down, and then it's going to want to seek out vices, right? So, or things that are going to like make it feel good, things that are going to give it a dopamine hit. You're like, I don't feel good because I'm eating too much, or I'm not getting the things done that I have to get done, or there's too much to do. So then I shut down. My brain doesn't feel good. It wants dopamine. So what do? I doom scroll. I avoid what I'm doing. I eat. I do these things that like for that dopamine hit. And then I'm just like kind of seeking vices. And now I'm like in that situation again. So the first thing you want to do to really start making changes is identify the thoughts that are causing your stress. And if it's, you have a hard time identifying the thought, try to like, when you start to maybe not feel good, you can catch the feeling maybe, oh, I'm feeling stressed. Okay, well, I'm feeling stressed. Feelings don't come before thoughts. So what have I been thinking about that made me feel stressed? Or you can definitely catch it on actions. You're like, oh my God, I'm stress eating, or oh my God, I'm like doom scrolling, or I know I'm avoiding things I have to do, or what am I feeling? What was I thinking that made me do that? Once you catch the feeling, then what you want to do is you want to say to yourself, okay, is this feeling true or is this not true? Is it true that maybe I can't afford Christmas presents this year? Okay, yeah, maybe that's true. How can I have a mindset shift around it so I just feel better about it? Because it could be true that you can't avoid Christmas presents, and it could be true that maybe that you experience that as stress, but it could also be true that, you know what, I really just want to show people that I care about them, and I'm going to find another way to do that. And both things can be true at the same time. But again, it's just easier to focus on the positive one and not give so much attention to the negative one, because that you can't control so much. And then when you start giving more and more attention to those positive thoughts, and then you rinse and repeat it, that becomes sort of your new autopilot. Another example is you might be saying to yourself, oh my God, I'm never going to get anything done. How am I going to get everything done? And like that thought's permeating in your head, and that's creating a feeling of stress. Okay, well, let's catch that thought. I'm not going to get everything done. Is that true or untrue? I guarantee you probably get everything done, or even if you don't, you get enough done for the purpose. You might just be being a perfectionist about it. So you do get everything done. So, okay, I am going to get everything done. I always get everything done. So why am I experiencing stress? Just sort of like breaking down the thoughts that are causing the feelings, it just allows you to manage and handle them better. And it makes your actions more in line with the person that you want to be, and less in line with somebody that's kind of just frazzled and spiraling all the time. So stress, you know, it's an inevitable part of life. We can't get rid of stress, but we can't control that, but we can control how you react to it and how you manage it. And how you react to it and how you manage it can totally change your quality of life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure that you are subscribed. If you wouldn't mind also, if you have a hot minute, rate this podcast if you enjoyed it. 5 stars, please. That would make my day. I'd be so happy. And then make sure you're following us on Instagram at ask_Mish, MISH. And make sure you slide into my DMs with all of your questions, and maybe I will choose yours for next week. But if I don't, I will definitely hit you up on my stories. Have a great week, guys. I will see you next time.